Alrighty, let's go searching for some buyers this week, and we're going to go top to bottom as we always do in SuperCoach there, looking at our hooking position. And it was a little bit of a down week for some of the guys that had been doing really well, and in that of Robson and Reed Barney, the two guys that have been crushing it. Some good scores from Mr. Brandon Smith, who I did start with, and unfortunately now has made 55k after about to lose money for him before I traded him out. So that was fun. He's got a lot of attacking stats the last 3 weeks, and that's what we kind of hoped. Well, I hoped anyway. We're starting with him, and it's kind of happened the last few weeks. So I don't think he's a buy. Obviously, you got Blake Brayley having a cracker week last week with 81. Again, don't expect that on a week-to-week basis from him. He was averaging in the mid-50s before that, and he obviously a big price rise because of that good week here in that 81. Appy, he's a clear hold. If you have Appy and Lussick like myself, they're both clear holds. If you do need a hooker, I think last week probably was the time. If you had Damien Cook, then he was the very easy sell. And then outside of that, I think anyone else you've got in your hooking position is a clear hold this week. There's no real reason. I think like maybe Danny Levi is the guy that you could move on. He has made 134k and done a good job at that. And that's going to start to go down now over the next few weeks unless he can get that 40 or 50 odd again. So Levi's probably the only one you want to look at. And you obviously got Jaden Brayley there, who is playing some good minutes again, but he is sitting there with in a position where he's not getting a lot of points even in those minutes. So he played 71 minutes on the weekend and still only hit a 42. So not super exciting, but he's down at 311k, and if he continues to get 40s now, he'll start to go up a little bit, and that's probably all you can expect. So he's an easy downgrade option from Levi, and if you wanted to, I understand why, because that that'll net you a little bit of cash, right? By going Levi down to him with Levi at 373, you're netting yourself about 60 odd k, and that could help you with an upgrade in another position. Like if I was in that situation myself, I could downgrade Levi to Brayley, and then I could use Totola. I could upgrade to Totola or something like that in my squad, but that's not where I'm at. It's just a little example as to what you can do, and he's the only guy I'd be looking to sell in the hooking position there. So let's leave it at that. There's no real clear top tier buys. Obviously Harry Grant's on the way down, and you go from there. If you're looking at my front row forward, then Tavia Totola obviously is the clear sell here, and for me, guys, I do need to look at getting a front row forward this week. So this is very relevant in my situation. Not in my team, but the head-to-head team, I'm looking heavily into Adam Fanua-Blake. Down 72.5k. He was actually carrying a quad strain for a few weeks there, and that, has obviously gone away over the last few weeks, given the minutes that he's been able to play in the last two. So obviously some extra time on the weekend. In that game, he played that extra 10 minutes and got, the full 10 minutes and got the extra 10 for a 73-minute game. So he was going to play 63 in that one. The South game the week before, 61. So a couple of big upgrades from where he was in the first few games of the season with a 49 and a 42, the 2 games before. He still managed to score 77 in that 49-minute game, but 43 in the one after that. So he looks like he's back to full health and definitely due for another try like he scored in round 1 there with Adden. So he's definitely a guy that you can look at. I do think Joe Tarpany is another great one to look at. He does have a buy in round 10, a buy in round 14 as well, but is obviously going to play those big buy rounds, 13, 16 and the like, which is obviously pretty important there. So they're the two I'd be looking to target. Obviously Stefano, another try for him. His base stats were down last week, but the base power, obviously, with the tackle breaks has been there, and then scoring random tries has been helpful for him too. So, a line break the week before. So 590k, it's probably the last chance, in my opinion, to grab Stefano this week. I'd probably avoid going for Josh Curran. I think he's going to be very helpful come round 9. If you don't have him now, probably not one to buy, given they're out next week. But obviously got him myself at this point. If you're looking at anyone else, obviously Jamin Jolliffe is probably the other one to have a look at there at 546. He went up 50k last week, and with that 94, don't expect that going forward. And I think last week was probably the time to buy. But if you are still interested, he's obviously a bit cheaper there at 546, and can do a good job. I think he'll hit about a 55 to 60 average going forward, just in base, and then obviously the odd try is going to be helpful as well. Seems very hard to grab onto Tommy Hazelton now, but he's getting good minutes in this pack there. He'll probably lose a few though with a few of the guys coming back, but I do think he's been pretty close to their best forward this year, and that's for sure. Josh Kerr, I think, is a fairly easy sell this week. He just didn't get the minutes last week, and that's the worry with him going forward. He'll start to lose money now after having a really good start and making 100k before that 4.7 drop. I do think Flegler's an interesting one. I think he's a guy that you can hold or sell. Like if you have pressing issues this week and you want to use his 532k to upgrade to someone, then I definitely think he's a good guy that you can use in that scenario. If you've got Curran in your 2RF, you can move Curran up to front row forward and trade out Flegler if you like, or go Fleg straight to, which I'm looking at in my head-to-head side, Fleg's up to Adam Fanua-Blake. I think that's a nice upgrade. Adam Fanua-Blake doesn't play Origin. Flegler will. He could be out next week as well, Flegs. Like it might not just be this week. And if he's out in round 8 as well, then you've only got sort of 3 rounds out of him, 4 rounds out of him, 9, 10, 11, 12 before Origin. And they have a shocking bye period for anyone who does play Origin, the Dolphins. So that's that. Really outside of those guys, you've got guys like Adam Mariota, who is going to have a little bit of a run of games here. At least a couple, you'd imagine, with Elliott Whitehead still returning from his injury. Expect somewhere around the 55 minutes, probably, from Mariota. Did score a try last week, and you probably won't expect that going forward. But in his case, it's going to be some decent base, obviously some good minutes there, and he can score well. But I would look at you selecting Xavier Willison instead, to be honest with you, there in that price bracket, and that's where I'm looking at myself at 336k. In this side is just to go to Tola straight to Xavier Willison, because I need to try and get Angus Crichton, and unfortunately Xavier Willison coming in, I can't go Burbo straight to Crichton, so I'm going to have to muck around with some other things, which is frustrating. I think I'm about 8 or 9 short, and even if I went Mariota 5k less, I'd still be short on that one, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a front row forward position. It's one that you don't want to use too many trades in, but it's a position that you could easily make that type of move with and get one of those cheapies. And Willison, like, it's likely just that Haas is out this week, but I don't think Wilson's really important for this team going forward. I think he's jumped ahead of a few other guys, and they're enjoying his impact off the bench. And Baker and those kind of guys at the moment are a bit of a stopgap in the starting side for when Haas comes back. And obviously over the Origin period as well. Yes, the Broncos missed 13-16, so it's a little bit frustrating for owning Willison. But the games following, Origin, obviously round 19 as well, if you want to hold him that far, he's going to get good minutes, at least in those, with Haas and Carrigan playing less after Origin in rounds 14, 17, and 20 as well. So I think that'll do on the front row forward side of things. Let's go to the 2RF, and very happy obviously with both Vermore and my side. You could buy him. I think that you'd probably want to go for like Crichton and Blore beforehand, to be honest, just for the a little bit more upside. But Bowie scored a try the week before and got his 70, and then got base stats for 70 this week. So we know what he can do, and it looks like he's getting into his work over the last few weeks especially. Eli Katoa, I wouldn't push him as a big buy this week. Obviously, low one, 110 the week before. He'll be that kind of guy, 40-odd to 50, and then a big one with a try. Kaipi Ball, if you haven't got him yet, he's obviously a very easy one to grab. Morgan Smithies, if you haven't got many Raiders, I still think he's got another 100 or so thousand to make. If he's playing close to 80 minutes, then he's a guy that you could easily see him getting to 550k, so another 100k, good points, safe points at that. Shawnee Blore, who we just rolled past, along with Angus Crichton as well, 459 for Gus, and then Blory as well. We'll look at round 6 points, so help me find Mr. Sean with his 80-odd, or whatever he got, 70-odd, where is he, 87, 489 for Blore. So I think Crichton first, then Sean. There's a little bit of a worry around Joe Chan, but I do think he's going to play a little bit of middle, maybe steal some minutes off Blore if he's not exactly ready for the full 80 minutes on a week-to-week basis, but he looked good last week, and I think there's a chance he does play the full 80 and does a good job for your guys' sides there, that's for sure. So, they're the two clear mid-range type of buys. If you're looking in the upper tier, I do think someone like Olakuatu could be the play. It's hard to select anyone else in that sort of top tier, I think, this week. Like, no one is really jumping off the page. You obviously had 100 from Elliott, but he's been scoring really poor outside of that. Hudson Young doing good things as well, but needs to score tries to kind of average really high. He's got a few of them this year, I think 3 already. And then Victor Radley doing great things as well, but none of them are really jumping off the page as a purchase for me. I do think there's enough of these mid-range guys in Kaipi's Paul, Crichton, Blore, that are doing good things and are more of a buy. And then you've got to have like Dave Fafita on your radar. So he's down 38k now, under 800 at 793. And yeah, he's the clear guy that we're going to want in our sides. And on a year-to-year basis, he's almost near the 100 average at certain times where he goes on just 100 runs for 4 or 5 in a row. So he's a cool one. When you can pay an extra, 77k to get Olakau'atu up to Fafita, then I know a lot of people would select Fafita off that one there. So I suppose in the 2RF, that's probably where you'd want to look at. Another 28k for Tom Eisenhuth. What a year he's had at 135 up in total. That's probably it, isn't it? Sean Lane, I think, is fairly well a hold. I don't know if you'd go him to Crichton. Probably want to try to find another way, but I do think it is an upgrade. If you did go him to Crichton, at least 10 points on top, I think. Like Crichton will be closer to 60. Lane, I think, is probably 50 to 55 going forward. Whereas, Crichton can go well above that, that's for sure. And that's probably it, to be honest with you. On the 2RF, Zach Hosking a sell, obviously. Jaden Hunt, if you bought him, I think he needs to be on. He made 10.8k in his 3 games. How good's that? He's more of a heading towards the sell basket. In the halfback position, SJ seems to be the smartest guy on the list to target, given his scores at the moment. He's 751k though. If you've got Fogs, you're holding. I wouldn't be buying DCE this week. He went up that 81k and that kind of cooks him. Doesn't have the goal kicking anymore. If you don't have Hines, like at 811 now, he's getting really cheap. And we know what he can score on a week-to-week basis, but he just hasn't been doing it at the moment. So that's, he's an interesting one there. Would you go for Johnson over Nico? 60k difference, maybe. We know that Johnson obviously won't play Origin. Cleary not back next week. Do you save some cash for that? Like if you're sitting there with the Luke Brooks in that position, he has a really nice run over the next few weeks. So I think I'd be holding him. Obviously plays the Titans this week and he could score some good points over this period for sure. You got Matt Burton, obviously dual position there as well. It's another 79 and he's really increased over the last few weeks and 91k gain. So if you picked him up 3 weeks ago, he's gone bang, bang, bang with 3 awesome scores and made back all the money that he lost over that period. I got Hughes and I'm hoping for a bounce back here against Roosters. I think he'll be able to, averaging 71 for the year, including that 47, so he'll be fine. Hutcho's a sell, guys, in my opinion, but who you sell him for is the question, or do you hold him one more week and is he your ticket to Cleary rather than using a trade on this 1 week and then going from there? For the 5/8 position, Dylan Brown and Galvin seems to be a really good combo right now, but if you didn't have either of those and you had a Brooks, I think you're holding Lukey. Munster, a good game for him with a 92. It went to him instead of going to Hughes this week. Hughes' side got pumped in defence on that by the Dogs there. Ethan Strange, if you're sitting him at 5/8, you just hold that position. Tamari Martin is the big purchase this week, a 363 coming off 2 really good scores and 85 average across the 2. He's going to make some good money this week. So who would you trade to get Tamari? I wouldn't trade Brooks to get him, to be honest with you. You'd have to be sitting with like a Kyle Flanagan or these types of players, because if you got Brown and Galvin, I wouldn't trade either of them, and you just have to let him go through to the keeper. Like Tamari, 2 really good scores. I'm not expecting anywhere near a 65 average going forward, but even if it was a 55 or so, it's a lot of money to be made at 363 with a big negative break even. To have a look at him. But yeah, anyone outside of sort of, if you got Caesar or something, then he's been doing solidly well, but I would trade Caesar to Tamari. If you went with Jaden Campbell, then he's the sell this week. If you're sitting there with Max Plath still, you're holding him because he's going to make some money. Really good couple of weeks there for him. Before his issue, getting suspended. So yeah, that's probably where I'm at with the 5/8 position. Only a few guys you would trade actually to Murray. In your centre wing, Holmes is still the guy. Roger, a few people are thinking about selling, but they have an awesome draw over the next few weeks is what you need to think about with the Warriors. It's Dragons, Titans, Knights, which means he could definitely get some points, but that left-hand side isn't as successful as the right, that's for sure, but I still think he's solid and not one you want to look at trading. If you grabbed Schiller last week, happy days, he's been named again. He made 155k and he's got more to make this week, but still that negative break even there of negative 60. And then Kale Iro with a negative 76, which is great. Strange this week. The Raiders are up against the Broncos. I would be playing Strange over Schiller for sure. The question mark here lies as if you are going to be playing like a Kale Iro over like a Taylor May. Is that the decision you have to make? And if it is, which way do you go? I do think it's a bit of a coin flip. May's not really getting the ball. Iro who's he up against again? Cowboys. So that could be a fun one. There's plenty of points in that game normally. May's up against the Tigers, so I think that's a coin flip. Slightly heading towards Iro at the moment. Obviously, the average stands out pretty closely, but Taylor's had a really good game round one, but has had 5 games so far and is averaging 43. So the odds are in Iro's favour, even though he's a rookie. But Taylor's a second-year player anyway, which is interesting. But in terms of our centre wing, let's just have a little muck around with that now. It's going to be an interesting one. Manu was a great purchase last week. I had Meany up there as a good purchase, and he's a lot cheaper as well now after his low score. Bronson Sherry's the cheap guy that you want to look at, obviously, after Iro. So get him first for a cash grab. Hopefully he's there for a multitude of weeks. Every chance it's a couple of weeks or 1 week. But we saw what happened with Schiller. And if you missed out on him now, it's going to be, if he gets a 40 or 50 this week, it's going to be another close to 100k, which is pretty wild. For Schiller there, that means close to 250k that you've missed out on as a jump. And do you want to miss out on that with Iro again, who seems to be a good player? Bronson Sherry, I think he's like a negative 12 break even, so it's no massive price rise you're going to miss unless he goes sort of 80 plus like he did on the weekend, and I think he can definitely as well this week. But they also have a bye next week, so you could easily leave him. Ronaldo, Lomax, Manu, they're all scoring incredibly well across the season. 89 average for Ronaldo, and we've seen what he's done in the past, but he also did, had a different 5/8 as well. So maybe that's, he seems to be working a lot harder in general, out of trouble, and seems to be in everything, just playing incredibly well. So he could definitely keep it up, but my worry now at 750k for him, for Lomax, for Manu, they're so expensive and they have to stick to, close to that 80 average to continue holding that money. And, Manu's back at centre. He has a pretty tough couple of matchups. Sharkies have a little bit of a tougher run coming up over the next few weeks with Cows, Raiders, Dragons, not too bad. But following that, it gets a little bit harder with Melbourne, Roosters, Panthers. So we know there that he could have some lower weeks against like the Panthers, for example. That is far away though. It's hard to look that far ahead with someone like Ronaldo, but then does play round 13 as well. So there's that. But Bronson, I think you can wait a couple of weeks with him. Karaz is now a hold. He showed that he's much better in his sort of base work on the weekend. Murray Talangi, unfortunately, getting a hamstring injury. He'd been doing really well, made 79k, but he's a frustrating one at that. A little bounce back from Penasini, so if he didn't sell, now at 477k, I think he's closer to a hold for sure on that front. Moses Sulia, 60, much better for him. He's down 50k as well, and he's almost a hold now as well. With that one, obviously Burbo's a bit of a sell, and outside of that, Bostock is someone that you could look at over either this week or next week with a 50-odd break even now. He's an easy one to either hold this week or potentially sell if you need to use his cash. He's got Para this week, so I think it'll be a fairly close game. If Dolphins come out and still look all right with the injuries that they've had. So, hold or sell for Bostock this week. Who else we need to look at in the centre wing? Not too much. Greg Marzu down to 708k. He lost 81k and he's got a really high break even again. So I think you can either watch this week and see if he can get down to a 600 something thousand position. Ruben Garrick's the one you need to look at, guys. 690k, has a massive break even. Comes up against an easier team in the Titans and could really score well this week. So if you want to go on now, that's cool. But if he comes out and gets a 60, he'll be down to like 630, 640k and is an absolute prime target for a buy next week, considering the Manly have Titans, Eels, Raiders over the next 3. into Dolphins in round 10. And then it does get a bit harder and he misses round 13. But that's a run that if you can get Garrick or Greg Marzou at sort of 640, 630, 650K, then that's a terrific position to be in with those guys. And we know that they can go absolutely bonkers when they get some good ball and get the odd try and try assist, especially with Garrick being able to kick goals as well. Taylor May, I don't think he's a buy this week. I think he's a clear hold. I may have to sell him in my team actually to get Crichton, which I think is a little bit annoying, but I'm a little bit over-indexed with Taylor May with fantasy, and there's a lot going on in his life at the moment with the tattoo, with the video of him in the car when they were speeding, all these things happening. So I wonder if that affects him on the field. We'll find out. But that's the centre wing. And then we've got like Chance is a really important buy this week, it seems. Like if you got Ponga in turbo, it's the exact people you want in your side. Chance will make some money this week after a 92 average. His base stats have been absolutely wild with 50 odd in just run meters alone, which is crazy. 50 odd points, that is. But yeah, Ponga, Turbo, the two guys you want. People are looking at selling Drinkwater. He's averaging 83. I just don't see the reason why you would play fullback roulette with him. Yes, a couple of tougher games over the next few weeks, but then he has a nice run again. So what, are you going to bring him back in after that? I just don't rate it. If you have Drinkwater, you're holding steady and he's doing really, really good work. Gutho, obviously a better game last week. He's down a fair bit. I think he'll be a buy at some point. I don't know if it's now, though. I think closer to Origin period, he could be that look in, especially if he can go like 60s and 70s the next few weeks and stick around that price, which would be good. If you have Pap, I don't know if selling him's the best idea either. I think that, that's 75 with a, sin bin in there. So played 70 minutes and, lost the sin bin points. So he would have been like a 90s 100. And then if he didn't get sin bin, you're keeping him in your side longer term for sure. Tom Chester's only at fullback, so that's frustrating for him. Outside of that, really no one else you want to be looking at. Like Walsh, I understand if you did want to sell him, but he's at 664 now. And if you bought him last week, he has, he looked a little bit timid. He looked a little bit off, a little bit rusty in that first game. I think he'll be back to some of his best form over the next few weeks, and I don't think I'd be selling him either. We've been using so many trades across this start of the season. I just don't know if it's worth trying to continue using trades in your fullback position when there's so many other spots, there's so many other guys that we have injured or are not making money in other positions. The fullback spot is the point scoring position. Most of them are doing really well. Like Walsh had a bit of a tough one last week, but if you've got him at 664, you need sort of a couple 100K to get up to some of the top guys in turbo, and 300K to get to almost 300K to get to Ponga. So where do you get that from? Do you want to keep some cabbage for Cleary to come up? There's a lot of questions you need to ask yourself in that fullback position, and most of them don't revolve around making that big trade. So that's my thoughts around all of the buy, hold, risk it sells heading into Supercoach for round 7. I'm excited for a big round here. I think it's going to be a bit of a tough one now, actually selecting who you're going to play, considering Galvin's back as well. If you're sitting there with Taylor May, who's returned, you've got Joey Lasik, who scored well last week. So there's a good amount of question marks around who you're going to sit and start, and we'll answer that in the trades video coming up in tomorrow, which will be fun. So thanks for that, guys. We'll catch you in the next video.